6.3%. Eugene Bawelle is economist and senior lecturer, academic CT University. Joins us on the line. Good morning to you.
Yeah, good morning, Sana.
I hope you're well.
By the grace of God.
And it's nice to have you on the line. First this morning, let me start by asking for some education, because this morning we opened the phone lines for our callers to call in and tell us about the understanding of inflation, the concept we've discussed over and over again. For many listening, exactly what is inflation?
Sorry, so the last part of the question I didn't hear.
I was asking, what is inflation and how does it work in the lives of the day-to-day Ghanaian?
Okay, thank you so much, Sana, for this opportunity. I think that, unfortunately, I didn't listen to what the listeners or the callers may have described as inflation. But having been in this space for some time, one of the commonest mistakes I have seen people make is the fact that when we say inflation has dropped, it is equated to mean that prices have come down. That is the reverse, actually. So when we say inflation, we are looking at the general price level increase over a period of time. In our case, there is a year-on-year and there is a month-on-month, and I will come to explain the two. But the 6.3, for example, we have is a year-on-year inflation drop from the 8% from last month. So when we say inflation, we are looking at the general price increase over a period of time. That's actually what it means. So for the 6.3% inflation that we have for the month of November, what it means is that from November 2024 till November 2025, prices have increased by 6.3%. That's the meaning.
From November 2024 to November 2025, prices have increased by 6.3%.
An average, yes.
Average of 6.3%. Okay. Well, that's so. When it comes to inflation, you apply to the increase in prices, not drop.
Yes, it's not about a drop.
Okay. So at what point in time
when we say that inflation has reduced, what we mean is that the rate at which the prices have increased has reduced.
So it's a slower rate. So let's say
6.3%
is a slower rate than the 8% we had last month.
Exactly.
Okay.
Not for last month, for November last year.
Okay.
For this November, the month-on-month inflation is an increase of 0.9%, which means that between October last month, that's last 2 months, and November last month, prices have actually increased by 0.9%.
Okay. 0.9%. So yes. What you're doing is you are subtracting the last inflation rate from this current one?
No. So
okay. How do you measure that?
The government statistician does a lot of things when they are presenting the figures.
Okay.
But the headline figure is always a year-on-year, which is the 6.3 that everyone is talking about.
Okay.
And I've already explained what that means.
Okay.
The 6.3% is a year-on-year inflation figure. So we are comparing same time this year against same time last year.
Okay.
That's what the 6.3% means.
But the month-on-month is 0.9%.
9% increase, yes. It means that prices have increased between October and November
by
marginally, just a little, by 0.9%.
Oh, I see. Okay, I will now come back to what that means. But when people expect prices to reduce, what concept would then kick in, if not inflation?
Sorry, I didn't hear that.
So when we get to the point where we are saying prices are going down instead of going up, then which situation are we in?
So that would be, in economics, we call that deflation.
Deflation?
Yes, deflation.
Okay. So as long as deflation is not happening, what you should expect is that prices will go up, but maybe slower.
Exactly. Yes.
Okay, I see. Now let's come back to what we are seeing currently. We're seeing inflation dropping constantly. Exactly what is happening here?
Okay, so I think that for you in your introductory remarks, you alluded to the same thing. For 11 consecutive months now, inflation has been on a downward trend. As a matter of fact, the 6.3% for the month of November is probably the lowest since the rebasing in 2020, 2021. So for almost 4 years now, this has been the lowest. This is the lowest inflationary figure we have seen. And what that means is that I've already explained. It means that the rate at which the prices are increasing is seen a much slower rate now. That's what it means. And then there are a lot of factors, of course, that would account for this. Uh, Between the period 2022-2023, where we had inflation rising all the way to 54%, and even at the end of 2023, I think it came out to about 39.2%. We witnessed a sharp increase in inflation because there was a problem with our physicals and there was a problem with our monetary policies. You remember we had an exchange rate that was out of the roof. Even on both the food and non-food inflationary figures, prices, because of supply chain problems, were just on the spiral. So it is a reverse of the things that happened in 2023, the things that happened largely in 2022 that we are seeing now. A combination of both prudent both prudent monetary and fiscal policies is what is resulting in the downward trend that we have seen. One, if you take the food and non-food basket, there has been a general, slow in the rate at which prices increase. If you take, for example, our exchange rate, because of what we have done with gold the whole of this year, and the fact that cocoa prices have also gone up on the international stage, these have come in strongly to help sustain the cedi against the dollar. So, where in times past, where we had imported inflation because a huge chunk of the basket of goods that we use to measure inflation includes imported food items and non-food items. So, because our cedi is doing well now, obviously it stands to gain that how much money we spend in bringing in the imported goods would have reduced as compared to 2023 and 2024. And that's one of the things. Number two, if you look at the fact that the central bank itself has been on some good measure in terms of the things that they do. Currently, we have just like inflation itself has been coming down, just like exchange rate has been so stable, and the city has been doing so strongly. It is the same with the central bank. The monetary policy committee has been on some good trend now in terms of the policy rate. There has been some reduction consistently over the time, and that affects how the cost of borrowing in the market. So that is also one of the things that has affected the exchange, the inflationary pressures that we have had. So a good combination of both monetary policy and fiscal policy is what is resulting in the downward trend in inflation.
I see. Because at the time when we had that serious problem with inflation, the government then blamed it on COVID. They also talk about Russia and Ukraine war, among other consequences of both global events. That was what we were feeling at the time. Um, is it also because at this point in time we are not feeling the effects of COVID as we used to then?
Yeah, but the Russia-Ukraine war is still ongoing. It's not abated yet. I mean, of course, if you look at already, I explained the fact that a part of our inflation is because of the imported inflation. So, if there were supply chain disruptions at the time because of COVID or because of the Russia-Ukraine war, it stands to gain that there would be a problem with that part of our inflation, that is the imported. But of course, that's not the only thing. I've already explained that within the same period, we had huge challenges with our fiscals. The government, there was no prudence in spending. The exchange rate was out of the roof. So you could not have solely, blame the Russia-Ukraine war or COVID for the inflation that we're experiencing. That would be some level of ingenuity.
The interesting point is that you are saying a series of things are happening, but if you listen to the New Patriotic Party most of the time, their analysis is that this is largely due to gold revenues that are being used to show up the city. And so that is what is reflecting when it comes to the matter of inflation. That the moment we are not able to get those revenues, we are in trouble. Is that also an issue that we should be looking out for?
Well, so, I mean, you cannot take away the fact that the gold activities in the last 11 months, last 10 months, positively have affected the rate of increase in prices. That you cannot take away. And again, that is a reflection of how the exchange rate has operated in the last couple of months. So, yes, because we have had a very good exchange rate, the city has been doing well. It is a no-brainer that it would affect inflation positively. And so, yes, the gold board and its businesses have been a positive impact on inflation. But of course, you can't take away that from the government. If it were that easy, others would have done it before now. So it is a mark of a good leader to be able to see what to do with the limited resources that you have. Yes, we've been mining, we've been exporting gold for so many years now. But how is it that it is in the last 11 months, for example, that we are feeling the kind of impact that we are feeling now? So definitely you can't take away that from the government.
Mm. And then the interesting thing you said you're saying fiscal prudence. The past government swore to us that they were tightening their belts, that they were reducing expenditure. What is this government doing different from what they claim to have been doing that is reflecting in inflation and the performance of the economy?
Yeah, so I think that beyond the fact that, of course, everybody has complained about the fact that contractors have not been paid, and the finance ministry has explained the fact that there's some ongoing audit of all claims from contractors and all other people who are owed by the government. Beyond that, what the Atoforson-led Ministry of Finance has done is to concentrate on core expenditures and take out what we call non-core expenditure. If you observe from the 20, especially after 2020, this economy generally became a procurement economy. There were a lot of non-core expenditures that the government engaged in that necessarily you would not need to. I think one of the things that Forsen and his team have done is the fact that they have stayed focused and they only expend on critical areas and they put their monies in places where the money is needed. I think that has been the main difference. You would call that prudence because when you don't need to spend on something, then you don't do it. And I think that is a difference that we are seeing now.
And a lot of analysts also commend the Bank of Ghana for what they're doing. In fact, our understanding, and correct me if I'm wrong, is that when it comes to this kind of inflation, exchange rates, they are usually within the domain of monetary policy. That is the domain of the Bank of Ghana. But when the situation was bad, people were saying mostly that it was the fiscal, which means the one that falls under the finance minister, that was actually affecting the situation more than what was happening at the Bank of Ghana. What is the Bank of Ghana also doing right?
Yeah, so you raised two different things in one question. You see, let me deal with what the Bank of Ghana is doing first. And one of the things that we need to do is to commend Governor the Governor Johnson and his team because they have on the expired done the kind of job that you would ordinarily not see being done in the space or the time within which we have done it. Now, you mentioned that at some point in time there was a problem with the fiscal that affected the way the macro economy was moving. That's true. So you see, to be able to arrive at the success that we have arrived at as a country in the last 11 months, you will need a strong coordination between both the fiscal and monetary policy. And you were right. It is the Ministry of Finance that is in charge of the fiscal policy. It is the Bank of Ghana that is in charge of the monetary policy. So when we say fiscal policy, we are talking about government expenditure and taxation. That's, I mean, in simple terms. So if the decision to construct, for example, a road, the decision to pay for, say, a hospital to be constructed, the decision to impose a tax, that is the work of the Ministry of Finance. That's the fiscal policy. So general expenditure and taxation is fiscal policy. That's the work of the Ministry of Finance. The monetary policy, on the other hand, has to do with our exchange rate, has to do with our interest rates. Those are things that are handled by the central bank. And if the two don't work together, you could have a central bank that is doing so well on its monetary policy, but because of the fall-through effects from the fiscal policy, because there's no prudence on the fiscal side, it will derail the efforts of the monetary policy. And that's what we saw under the previous administration. The central bank could be on its own trying to manage the monetary policy. But of course, if the government is not prudent enough in its expenditure, whatever gains you are trying to make on the monetary side will fall through. And so we have to commend the seamless working relationship that has existed between Dr. Atoforsen and Dr. Johnson Esiama. That largely has contributed to the prudence and the growth that we are seeing. See, the gold thing is it's largely a Bank of Ghana transaction. I mean, you would say that the gold board is in the middle as a conduit, but realistically, it is the Bank of Ghana that provides funding for the gold to be bought every week. The gold goes to the central bank as reserves, and then, of course, the ones that we export. But generally, it has been a central bank decision, it's been a central bank activity, and that we cannot take away from Dr. Johnson Esiama.
I see. But in the midst of all this, because this has been going down and it's now at 6.3%, if I was sitting perhaps from the perspective of someone like me who may not have that technical eye, I expect it to continue further. But if you listen to the finance minister in the budget, and then you listen to the governor, they are anticipating that they will end the year, and you are listening to all the other institutions like the World Bank, among others. They are still telling us that inflation will still they end the year at over 8%. Exactly what will happen to have caused why the cautiousness in terms of those kind of projections?
Yeah, so the 8% is well, it's always plus or minus 2. It's a target. I mean, it is a target, and there are factors that feed into that target. So, in the last quarter of the year, ordinarily you would have expenditures increasing. I mean, you are expecting that there would have been a lot of goods imported for Christmas and the New Year season, for example. So, if you are expecting to see an increased activity in imports, that should affect the currency. That should affect the exchange rate. If you are expecting that there will be an increased economic activity, that would also affect the general money supply in the economy. So these are things that the people put together, both at the Ministry of Finance and the Bank of Ghana, and come to the fact that there's a possibility that the inflation may rise to 8%. But of course, I've already explained that unlike in the previous year or years, where there was a constant pressure on the cedi because of the increased demand for dollar, we may not be seeing that now because of the role that the gold board and the central bank is playing, right? So even though we set a target of 8%, it is likely, looking at the trend, that we may not go back to the 8. They may just be a continuous downward trend. Don't forget that because of the increase in prices on the world market, gold prices on the world market, that has possibly affected all this discussion. And so once that increased gold price is still in place, it is expected that what we are seeing now would continue to play out. in terms of the downward trend in inflation.
Two things before you go. First, are there any minuses to the process we are seeing? Like some negative effects because of the rate of inflation continuing to go down?
Yes. So of course, it's just like the same. For every economic activity or any economic policy, there are always positives and negatives. If you remember when the city was gaining grounds in the initial stages of this year, moving from about 15.7, moving from about 14, all the way down to 10. There was concerns from some, sectors of the economy who thought that they were losing out because the city was doing well. You remember that?
Yes, vividly.
Yes. So it is the same thing, of course. But generally, a downward trend in the rate at which prices increase should affect everybody. What you have to be doing now, if you listen to, for example, the government statistician when he was announcing the rate for the month of November, he indicated, for example, that this is time for households to look at their expenditure patterns. This is time for individuals to begin to look at savings on their income. This is time for even the government. This is time for even businesses because everybody stands to gain at one end, and on the other end, some can lose. So this is time for everybody to readjust. If you are a household, look at how you are earning and look at how you can save for tomorrow because of the fact that there's a slower rate in the increase in prices. So it is an opportunity for you to see if you are a business or if you are businesses, it's an opportunity for you to reorient and look at your supply chain activities, how that can impact if, for example, the exchange rate is beginning to move upwards.
And then let me conclude by asking, because it said if prices start to go down, then it's deflation. Now, there are those who are saying there are some prices that have gone down actually. What is accounting for that?
There are some prices that have gone down naturally.
Yeah,
Is that what I heard?
No, yes, there are some prices that have actually gone down. So people will tell you, I used to buy a crate of egg at this price. I'm buying it at this price now. Maybe an imported rice that I used to buy at this price has fallen to this price. If inflation was only about increase in the price of goods, then why am I paying less for the rice that I used to pay? What has happened in this kind of situation that has contributed to those kind of price dynamics too? Hello? Hello, Eugene. Okay. I think we may have lost him on the line. I think we can leave it there. We can leave it there. Taking us to 18 minutes past 8. Let's take a break. When we come back, we'll tend to the matter of Martin Pebu.
Hisense is